Hello everybody, welcome. My name is Professor Rich and we're here to learn English. I am a British English native teacher. I've been teaching English for 15 years and today I'm going to teach you English. So today we are talking about the effect that language has on the brain. So we're going to start with a little true or false. True or false? Language effects on the brain. Learning a second language keeps the brain younger. What do you think? Answers in the chat. That is over there on PC and mobile. Sorry, on PC and laptop, or it's down below on mobile devices. Does learning a language keep your brain younger? What do you think? By the way, everything I talk about today is scientific. I have the studies to show you that this information is scientific and established. So this is not just teacher rich nonsense. This is real linguistic science. So that is in fact true. And we are going to talk a little bit about that more later. And we're going to talk about specifically in what way learning a language keeps the brain younger. Okay, next. In fact, let me just show you a few more. So, it affects your personality, changes how you think about time, changes your identity. What do you think? Do you think that learning another language can affect your personality? Can it change your identity? Can it change how you think about time? Answers in the chat. And may I say a warm welcome to some of our regulars. Hello, Pallavi. Hello, Pavia. Hello, Mina. Hello, Domenico. Hello, Julia. Hello, Manuel Gordillo. Hello, Dreamer. Hello, Maria del Carmen. And hello to Probjat Kaur. And Vladimir. Hello. Now that the music's finished, I kind of miss it. But okay, let's focus on learning some English. So what effect does another language have on your thinking, on your brain? Oh, I still have the silly sunglasses on. Let's there we go. All right. Hello. Look, I have eyes. I have eyes. So affects your personality actually is true. When you think in another language, your personality is a little different, and we'll talk about that later. Changes how we think of time is true. And we'll talk about that later. Changes your identity is true. We'll talk about that later. Let's have a look at the last 5 things here. Is it possible all these things are true? No. Let's have a look. Increase the ability to multitask. Alters your perception of time. Well, we've done that one already. Increases cultural awareness. Increases problem solving and delays the onset of mental diseases. When I say delay the onset, what does delay the onset mean? The onset of mental illness. I'll type that in the chat. And here we say delay. Delay the onset of mental illness. What does that mean? Camilla says, knowing a second language enhances our cognition abilities. It does, Camilla, and we're going to talk about, today we're going to talk about the precise ways that knowing a second language enhances our cognitive abilities. Julia says, it hands down affects your personality. I'm an introvert and have an unassuming demeanor in my personality trait, but the reason is I've become more confident. Do you mean from learning English? So I'm going to let you know now, in fact, all of these things are true. These are all true. And what is delay? Delay means postpone. It means make it happen further away in the future. That is delay or postpone. And the onset means the start. The onset of mental disease is the start of mental illness. So when you get old, you start to have some mental problems like dementia. And learning a second language like English, British English, or American, whatever, learning a second language delays the start of dementia. That is proven. So we're going to have a look at some specifics about this. But first, let's have a look at the general plan for today. Today, we're talking about how language affects thought. We're going to learn the effects of language. We did that. We looked at an overview, a summary of the ideas today. We're going to learn how we react to bad words. Bad words. We're going to learn how language changes our view, and we're going to learn how language keeps us younger. All right, so let's get into this. Let's start with the idea of how we react to bad words. So, bad words. Another word for bad words is swear words. Swear words. I'll type that in the chat. Swear words. We can also use the verb swearing. Now, how do you think languages affect how we react to bad words? Do you think that our reaction to bad words in another language is different than in our own language? For example, you, as a learner of English, do you react differently to swear words in English than swear words in your language? What do you think about that? Offensive words, that's right. Hello, Mangela. How are you doing? I'm not going to say a bad word, by the way, so don't worry about that. I want to know, do you think you react differently with bad words in your language and bad words in English? I'm going to tell you a little bit about the science here. It's quite interesting. So we start with a Turkish study. And in this study, they asked Turkish speakers to rate how offensive swear words were in Turkish and in English. And also, they measured the emotional reaction. They used electrodes on the skin to measure the emotional reaction. And they found that the swear words in Turkish speakers found the swear words in Turkish more offensive, and they found the swear words in English less offensive. So they found swear words in another language less offensive than their own language. And also we've got this later study which showed that bilingual speakers reported feeling more emotional when swearing in their native language. So this is true, and it's something to be careful about. because it means if you use a bad word in English, you might think it's not so serious, but a native speaker might hear it very serious. So you have to be careful about using bad words in another language, because you won't have the same emotional reaction as a native speaker. So it's really important to be careful. Don't use bad words in another language. I mean, hey, maybe we don't want to use bad words in any language, but in reality, sometimes you say a bad word in another language. Sometimes it happens, right? Sometimes you say a bad word, but try not to use it in a non-native language, because other people, native speakers, will have a more serious emotional reaction than you realize. Okay? Okay, moving on, I want to talk about the Sapier-Warf hypothesis. So we're getting very scientific here. A hypothesis is a theory that hasn't been necessarily proven yet. So this is an interesting theory which talks about how language changes our perception. In other words, the way that we see the world and the way that we experience and think of the world changes based on our language. So that means if this theory is true, when we learn another language, like when we learn English, it changes how we think about the world. That's really important if you think about it. Learning another language changes how you think about the world. What do you guys think about that? Tell me your opinions in the chat, and I'm going to give you some examples of this very interesting theory. So, there was a study about different colors of blue. Look at these colors of blue. Do you remember a few weeks ago, I set an interesting homework, which was to go and look at the sky and talk about the colors in the sky. And some people complained, oh, how can you have so many names for blue? Well, look at this. Here we have 20 different colors of blue. And they did an experiment on this with speakers of Russian languages. What do you think they found? Do we have any Russians in the chat? What do you think they found about this? Comparing English speakers to Russian speakers and talking about the color blue. What do you think, Alexander? Any ideas? Do you think that English speakers were better at differentiating the colors of blue? Or do you think Russian speakers were better? The question is, can we differentiate different colors of blue? What is differentiate? Differentiate means tell the difference. It means distinguish, right? It means you can see the difference between two things. Can you see the difference, right? So in this experiment, they actually found that speakers of Russian languages were better able to differentiate different shades of blue. Shades of blue, these here, these are shades of blue. And we can write that for vocabulary's sake. So speakers of Russian languages were better able to differentiate different shades of blue than English speakers. So this is something that comes from language, but it has a real world effect, because the effect here was they were able to tell that these were different colors, but English speakers could not. So this actually affects your performance outside of language. It changes how you see the color blue. And Alexander says that female speakers of Russian languages perform better than males. I haven't seen the study on that, Alexander, so obviously I have no comment. So this is amazing, isn't it? That by having another language, you can actually see different colors. Really? Okay, it's not like seeing a rainbow compared to seeing... It's not so obvious, but there's a difference in performance. There is a difference. Maybe Elena Anisimova would like to comment about this. What do you think of that, Elena? If you have a look. Or Elena, is it? Elena, what do you think about that? Does this make sense to you? And hello there, Pavia. How are you doing? It's been a while since we've seen you. Ashley Chen says, one colour I like the most is the turquoise colour. Oh, yeah? I can't say I'm a big fan. I think I prefer indigo. And Pavia doesn't know what's happening, which actually is quite worrying. So we're talking about how languages affect the way you think. And here I'm telling you that by knowing a different language, it can affect how you see the world. And this is a study about how speakers of Russian languages can tell, they can see the difference better between shades of blue than English speakers. And Elena says that's correct. Okay, let's move on. So language and money. Oh, here we go. Uh-oh. 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 Spaghetti-o. Language and money, everybody. How do you think that knowing different languages can affect your attitude to money? Is this possible? It's really important, this, because if you think you could learn another language and it could change how you live, how you deal with money. Really? So, what do you think? What's going on here? I'll tell you about the languages involved in this study. So, this is comparing speakers of languages with a future grammar form and speakers of languages with not so much a fixed form. So let's just look at that first. What is a future grammar form? So a future grammar form would be like in Spanish, you put this at the end of a word and that makes it a future grammar form, right? Like hablar means talk in Spanish. And if you say hablaré, it means I'll talk, right? It's like a future grammar form, okay? Now, in English, we do have will, but actually will is not used as often as going to, right? Or even just the present continuous. I'm visiting my doctor tomorrow. Okay, a very common way in English of talking about the future. So in English, we have less of a strong grammar form for the future. But in some languages, they have more of a grammar form for the future. So how do you think that affects our attitude to money? Answers in the chat. How do you think that affects our attitude to money? And we have the results of our poll. I asked a poll which was, which part of language learning excites you the most? And the results of our poll are in with 24 votes. So communication is the top part there, which that makes absolute sense. And I think we should be teaching languages in that way, that communication is the most important goal. And then creativity after that, which is very interesting, actually. I like that. That's a really interesting discovery. I didn't expect that. Culture, 20%. Better thinking, only 8%. Although we are learning today that by learning how to speak a language better, you can actually think better. So, languages and money. What they actually found here is that speakers of languages with a future grammar form, like Spanish, were less likely to save money. I have no idea why that is, but it's quite interesting, isn't it? So speakers of languages with a future grammar form were less likely to save money. This was an experiment by Chen in 2013. And if you Google this, you'll find he does some talks about it. So languages really do seem to affect our actions, our behavior, and what we do. And that's absolutely fascinating. Let's carry on with this. We're going to talk about language and risk. So, answers in the chat. What is risk? What is risk? Risk. Some British English pronunciation here. Risk. 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 Chen has not been in Spain. Are you saying that Spanish people do save or don't, Maria del Carmen? Because he concluded that they don't save because you have a future grammar form, so you don't save money as much. Yeah, it's true, Manuel. You do have that as well. And I think the Spanish have adapted that a little as well. Just like in English. Risk is our ability to be courageous, says Camilla. That's really interesting. Where are you from, by the way, Camilla? Risk is our ability of being courageous. Is it? I don't know if it is, but it's related. Pavia says risk refers to the uncertainty of an adverse event occurring. Yes, it can. We can also say take a risk or take risks. So what does it mean, this take risks? So take risks means you're going to try something even though there's some danger. Some possible danger, you're going to do it. That's taking a risk. So, what do we find about languages and risks? Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. When you are thinking in English, do you think you take more risks or less risks? When you are thinking in English, do you think you take more risks or less risks? What do you think? Domenico says, taking risks can be referred to as stepping out of your comfort zone, leading you to dive into uncharted territories. Oh, yes. Uncharted territories. The very phrase uncharted territories makes me excited and I want to play video games. So Alexander says less risks. What do you think? Do you guys agree? So Ashley Chen says more risks. Okay, so we've got a disagreement. It's quite hard to think about this because you actually don't really know. You might predict one thing and then find the other. Any other answers? We tend to take more risks because we have a strong desire of learning something new. That might be true, Camilla. But if you think about it, that could still be thinking in your own language. Like you're thinking in your language, but you take a risk because you want to learn English. So you might not be thinking in English when you take the risk. Dreamer says more risks. So a lot of people think more risks. So I'm sorry to surprise you, but actually the answer is less risks. People are less likely to take risks when making decisions in a non-native language. And the conclusion from this study was that people have an emotional distance. So basically, you're more in touch with your emotion when you are in your native language. And when you talk in a non-native language, you have more emotional distance. And this leads to taking less risks, because taking a risk actually is often based on an emotional decision. You know, like frustration, impatience, desire, right? You take risks because of these things. However, when thinking and deciding in a non-native language, you actually act more rational and less emotional. Isn't that fascinating? So when you're thinking in your second language, you're less likely to be influenced by emotional factors. And Alexander comments, yeah, like because of not feeling deep. And Julia says, fall in love with a woman, I suppose. I'm sorry, Julia, what's that? I'm a bit lost. Because they think more before they speak. That's part of it, Ashley, yeah. And another thing you find on this subject, I didn't put the study for this one, but another thing you find is that if you write something tricky, like you want to trick someone and you write like a little trick, okay, and try to get someone to agree to it, if it's in the non-native language, so for you, if I put a trick in English, you're more likely to notice it than in your own language. Because when you read the English, you have to engage that rational, logical mind to understand the English. And so you're more ready to see tricks. Whereas in your own language, you can be more on autopilot. And when you're on autopilot, you can miss tricks. Right? And when I say tricks, I mean like scams, or if someone's trying to play a joke on you or something like that. So that was another study. I didn't put that one in the material. So we find some very interesting things here, don't we, about how using languages and thinking in languages it can give us more tools, more utilities to live our life. And that's the overall message that I'm giving in this class. It's that by learning more languages, we basically empower ourselves. We gain more abilities to be able to deal with the world, interact with the world. It makes us stronger, not just in communication, but it's like it turns us into a Swiss Army knife where we can tackle different situations with different tools. So we're going to move on now to this idea of keeping the brain younger. You remember at the start of the class, I said learning languages helps keep the brain younger. So I'm going to show you, let me just full screen. I'm going to show you three studies that all show something about keeping the brain younger from learning another language. For each of them, I want you to complete the missing words. So there's 2 missing words for each of them, and you can see the words at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so here we go. So here we have the 3 studies about keeping the brain younger, and the numbers are 1 to 6. And you have here at the bottom, you have the missing words. Match the missing words at the bottom with the gaps in the text. Camilla says, today's topic's extremely interesting and very engaging. Thank you, Camilla. Engaging learning, fun classes, and interesting language learning is hopefully my speciality. It's what I try to do the most on this channel. We want authentic communication, interesting learning, real language combined with engaging and interesting topics. So Maria Elena Quarov says, emotional distance, nothing to compare when non-native have high intelligence too. Emotional distance, nothing to compare when non-native have high intelligence too. I don't quite understand that. Emotional distance, nothing to compare when non-native have high intelligence too. So high intelligent non-native. No, I'm totally lost. Sorry, Maria, I can't decode that. Domenico says, Rich, while I feel some emotional distance when it comes to decision making, I was raised to be courageous. That's why when the opportunity to learn something new comes up, and then Domenico ran out of the character limit on YouTube. Oh, Alexander's done it already. A quick thinker and a quick typer. It's one thing to consider, isn't it? That all of you, while you're doing the lesson, you will be engaging in English. So it will actually change a bit how you think. Maybe it makes you more rational. Maybe this is why students really like grammar. It's because in another language you become more logical, more rational. So you want the logical, rational way of learning, right? Rather than the arty, weird, flowing, natural language that makes no sense, right? Instead, you want, no, I want the subject plus verb plus complement, right? Because your brain is thinking in this second language, and it's bringing out that inner scientist who wants things to be 1 + 1 is 2. It's an interesting thought. I would love to study that. All right then, so I'm going to show you the answers for this. So we've got bilingual patients showed symptoms of dementia approximately 1.4 years later than monolingual. So by learning another language, by learning English now, let's full screen this. I can clip this for a short. By learning a second language, you can delay the onset of dementia by 4.1 years. You can add 4.1 years to your mentally healthy life by learning English. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, right? Dementia sucks. You do not want dementia, right? Dementia sucks. So if we can delay dementia by 4 years, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think it's worth learning a language to delay dementia by 4 years. Yeah. Okay, next. Bilingualism was associated with increased grey matter in the frontal executive areas. Executive means decision making. So the part of the brain that make decisions, which may help resist Alzheimer's. Wow. Extra points. We develop our grey matter, which helps us to resist Alzheimer's. Well, that's good, because Alzheimer's, guess what? Alzheimer's sucks. Alzheimer's sucks, okay? Dementia sucks and Alzheimer's sucks. Alzheimer's sucks more, maybe. Well, it depends. But they both suck. Okay, next. The research using MRI scans found that elderly bilinguals had better preserved white matter in their brains compared to monolinguals. White matter in the brain. And white matter is something that I researched just before the stream, and now I can't remember what it is. White matter allows the exchange of information and communication between different parts of the brain. It's associated with cognitive abilities, global function, balance, and emotional mood. Right, so basically it's associated with everything. So yeah, white matter's really important. I mean, this is brilliant, isn't it? Look at all these benefits to learning languages. And if you're interested in these studies, you can Google the authors and the date, and you'll be able to find the studies. This is all stuff that's been backed up. And Pavia says, just clear that for a moment. How do you pronounce frontal? Frontal. That's how you pronounce it. Excuse me, I was just about to sneeze. Frontal, the frontal executive areas. Why, how do you pronounce it? Frontal? That's wrong. Frontal. Domenico says, Rich, I can see on my screen that we've both read the same research publications. What a coincidence. Oh, very good, Domenico. I must admit, I haven't read these studies in detail. I just kind of scan them. I love looking at studies on language learning, but I just don't have enough mental energy and time to consume as many as I wish I could. So Julia puts it very well. She says bilingualism is a compensate for dementia and Alzheimer's. Exactly. It's a way of delaying the onset of these terrible mental illnesses. So isn't that fantastic? And I highly recommend that. And by the way, I highly recommend that you take vitamins and mineral supplements as well, because so many mental diseases are caused by a lack of nutrition. There is no need to have a lack of nutrition in the modern world. Even if you don't have a lot of money, you can still get vitamins and supplements. Pavia says, I actually kind of stress the O. What do you mean? Like frontal, frontal, frontal. What do you say? Frontal? Frontal? I don't know what that is. Nobody says. That's an international English thing, because the Americans don't say that. They would say frandle, the prefrontal cortex. Anyway. All right, everybody, let's move on to question time. And of course, we do have the notes available for today. So, how can I help you with your English today, folks? Oh, we've got questions already. We've got an interesting question here from Maria Elena. And she says, can a person who has Alzheimer's stop the progress of being ill if she starts studying a language? So, first of all, I am not a doctor, so I can't offer medical advice. What I can tell you is there is some suggestion that exercising your mental capacity helps to delay Alzheimer's, delay the progression. However, I believe the research is inconclusive. The important thing for Alzheimer's is to get the correct medication. And there are medications that can help with Alzheimer's now. You need to see a doctor to consult that. One of the important things with dementia and Alzheimer's is to get it early. You need an early diagnosis. So as soon as you suspect that yourself or someone else is having memory problems, then you need to get things checked immediately. And one of the first things that a doctor might do is to test for a vitamin D deficiency, because vitamin D deficiency is linked to early Alzheimer's. Vitamin D is a vitamin that you do not want to be deficient in. Okay? And once again, I'm not a doctor, I'm an English teacher, but this is the information that I understand from reading about this and listening to doctors and so on. All right, folks, do you have any other questions about learning English today? Please do check out our community. You can join our lovely chat community. It's very easy. You just sign up for a free account on Discord and you can join our amazing chat community. It's bit.ly/englearnchat. bit.ly/englearnchat. There is a link down below the video and there is a link in the chat. And when you join the server, you need to react to the rules with a tick. Go, yes, these rules are okay. And then you can join the server and chat with everyone else. It's just a text chat. So don't worry if you're a bit shy, it's fine. You don't need to voice chat or anything. We do have voice chat channels actually, but they're not really used yet. People just use it as a messaging service. Anyone got any questions on their mind about learning English? So Ashley Chen says it's not only suffering patients, but also increasing depression to their families. Oh yeah, Ashley, it's so bad. Like, I have some close friends and family members now who are dealing with family members with Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's really bad. It's so tough. It's like, because you get this like gradual mental decline. A gradual mental decline. I'll write that in the chat. Gradual mental decline. It's really tough. It's really tough for people to deal with. You can play poker to train your brain. Yeah, okay. Or you can learn English. Zaro Ribes Torres says, neuroscience research says meditation is really good to prevent Alzheimer's. Well, meditation is an extremely engaging and challenging mental and emotional activity. So it would make sense that a lot of meditation would help with that sort of issue. Pavia says, it feels like you've packed the class to the brim. Oh, yes. Pack it to the brim. Nice verb there from Pavia. Pack it to the brim. You've packed the class to the brim with scientific insights. Also, scientific insights. Lovely collocation. Creating a dynamic interplay between the medical science and language learning. Well, I've tried my best, Pavia. I think we could do with a few more activities today. There was a bit too much lecturing, but you know, sometimes I feel inspired to do activities and sometimes not so much. But I think more activities could be good today. Drinking alcohol, but only 50 milliliters a day, says Maria Elena. I don't quite know what you mean there, Maria. Manuel says it could be true. I forget every day if I've paid the bills or not. Manuel, take some vitamin D and go see your doctor. No, I think your memory seems okay, Manuel. I think in the Canary Islands, I'm quite sure that you get a lot of vitamin D with the sun that you get. And also with the excellent quality of fish. I bet you get great fish, don't you, on the Canary Islands? Camilla says, I've heard something similar. In order to prevent dementia, if a person knows how to play an instrument. That's an interesting thing that you're saying there, Camilla, because for me, learning to play an instrument is probably the closest thing to learning a language. It's the closest skill to learning a language, learning to play a musical instrument. It's a really, really strong analogy, right? Let's just have a look at that a minute, because it is something that I talk about a lot, playing a musical instrument and learning a language. And by the way, I've done both, okay? I learned to speak Spanish and I can play guitar and piano, okay? So let's look at the similarities between learning to play a musical instrument and learning a language. Right. So, first of all, you have to train your ear, right, to distinguish different sounds, instruments, etc. Right? So you have to train your ear. You have to do that in languages. You have to do that in instruments. Okay. You have to learn some theory. Okay. With music, you learn the scales, you learn the chords, you learn what chords go with what scales. With languages, you learn rules for spelling, you learn grammar, you learn some vocabulary, right? So you have to learn some theory. You have to do new things with your muscles. The first time that you play a guitar, it feels so weird. You have to like take your right hand and like put the fingers on the string in the right place to get it in the right place. Hang on. All right, 1 second. 1 second, folks. Just 1 second here. Is my guitar in tune? That's the question. Oh, God. So not in tune. Sounds like it's really low at the minute. But, okay, I can give you an idea anyway. I don't actually need to play it. I can just demonstrate my point. Oh, right. So when you first learn to play guitar and you need to put your hands in a certain position, it's like you can't actually move your fingers in the correct way. So you have to like take your right hand and put your fingers on the strings with your right hand, because your muscles in your hand don't move in the right way, right? When you first learn to play a guitar. And if you think about how that relates to language learning, think about trying to pronounce words in another language. It's very similar. It's like you have to do new things with these muscles, with the vocal organs, with your tongue, with your mouth shape, with your lips. You have to make new shapes, and that's difficult. It's something that you have to train and you have to practice. It's a mechanical skill, and it involves coordination. So we've got doing new things with muscles, and we also have muscle memory. Okay. And the other thing that I think is similar is you have to learn things in isolation, and then learn them connected together, right? So like if you were learning a guitar, then you might learn like just one note, right? But then you might learn to play it like with some other notes. Or whatever. My guitar is horribly out of tune. So there's a similarity there in how we might learn sounds in pronunciation in a language, and then how we'd learn pronouncing connected speech and natural language, which actually sounds quite different when everything goes together. Okay? So personally, I think there's a lot of similarities. We could even talk about learning to read as well. because obviously you need to read music and you read language, right? And we can go on and on and on with this analogy, but I think it's a good analogy anyway. Let's see what we've got here. JV says Bruce Willis became ill. Oh yeah, he did. I hope he's all right. I used to love Bruce Willis. Yeah, he's got it, hasn't he? He's got Alzheimer's, I think. Thank you, Ashley. I try my best. Alexander says, I'm still facing problems choosing the perfect or past tense or ing version instead of the to version. Hopeless. Looks like if it should be remembered, like playing a musical instrument. Wait, let's have a look at this, Alexander. I'm still facing problems when choosing the perfect tense or simple past or ing. Let me just put this on the screen because I need a reference point for this. Yeah. I really despise that. The clipboard, when you copy to the clipboard, there needs to be an option to just copy text, not formatting. If anyone knows a way to do that without downloading an app, then tell me. I'm still facing problems with choosing the perfect tense or simple past or ing instead of to version. Okay. So these are two separate issues, right? So perfect tense or simple past, ing or to. Right. Okay. Can you tell me more about the circumstance when you have these problems? Because there's a lot of different times when this could be a problem. So under what can you give me an example? Give me an example for the first one and then give me an example for the second one. Just tell me about a situation when you're not sure. I need an example for both. Beautiful Mind is an emotional film about the mathematician John Nash, who was suffering from Alzheimer's. Yeah, it's a good film. I like it. Domenico says, Rich, how well can you strum a guitar? Right. I will. Just give me a second. I'll share with you my SoundCloud. I have a SoundCloud where I have my music because I make instrumental music. Okay. I'm not going to claim that there's anything special about my music, okay? It's just fun stuff. And it's mainly instrumental. But if you want to have a listen, that's the link to my SoundCloud. Yeah, Manuel sent me his homework. That's great. Rajesh says, hi, brother. Hello, Rajesh. How are you? Are you okay? The way you talk about learning a second language is easy to be motivated to continue it. Thank you. That's wonderful, Camilla. That's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, you should continue it and keep going. And we're going to talk on Saturday. I'm going to do a stream. We're going to talk about a third language, right? Because getting into languages is a great thing to do. And people say, oh, but you know, artificial intelligence, in 5-10 years, no one will need to learn another language. Sure. Yeah, you know, we have cars. Nobody needs to walk, right? Why do you need to walk when you got a car, right? Why do you need to run? Why do you need to climb stairs? We've got lifts, right? There's lots of advantages to learning a language, even if technology enables communication without it. Learning a language still has a lot of advantages. And you learn lots of skills, lots of cultural things. You learn to think differently. And it makes you healthier. What's this? Alexander says, the US Secretary Blinken has issued several of his own songs through Apple Music. I see. Yeah, I see what you mean. Or just released several songs. Yeah. Yeah. I see exactly what you mean. So you're talking about the use of present perfect to talk about what I call life experience, which is something someone has done in their life. Okay? So this is equivalent to the phrase, I've never eaten frog's legs. Do you guys know frog's legs? It's popular in France. I've never eaten frog's legs. Or, I've been to France twice. Okay? So this is one of the uses of this form, the present perfect. We use it to talk about life experience. It's kind of like a tick box, right? It's kind of like we have a tick box, and the tick box is like eat frog's legs. Okay? And we want to know, has this person ever done that? Has this happened in this person's life? If it hasn't, then we say, I've never eaten frog's legs. If it has, then we can say, I've eaten frog's legs. If it's happened twice, then we can say, I've eaten frog's legs 2 times or twice, right? So this is talking about life experience. And when you're talking about life experience in the context of life experience, then you use present perfect. However, if you change the focus, and instead of focusing on someone's life experience, you want to focus on a specific event at a time in the past, then we can flip to the past simple. And we say, I ate frog's legs last week, right? And notice the key word here, last week, which indicates it's a specific event at a time in the past. Okay? And we can even combine these two things. We can start by talking about life experience. I've eaten frog's legs twice. I've eaten frog's legs twice. One time was when I ate frog's legs last week. So it's the contrast between talking generally about life experience and talking about specific time in the past. Camilla says, do you know if British people tend to be monolingual or bilingual? Monolingual, for sure, Camilla. in general, English speakers are monolingual because the vast majority of bilingual people in the world speak their native language and English. So to be fair to English speakers, there's less motivation to learn a second language. But personally, I speak English and Spanish, and I'm learning Vietnamese, and I know a few other languages a little bit. And Pallavi says, I love frog's legs. I eat frog's legs every day. I can't imagine not eating frog's legs. Oh, great. Domenico says, Rich, my uncle-in-law used to strum the door quite well. I vividly remember him playing the instrument after a hearty family meal. Yeah, I can strum the guitar not too bad. But my guitar's out of tune at the moment, so I don't want to do it. So I can just do this. Do like a rhythm thing. Yeah, I'm more into electric guitar, actually. I just happen to have my acoustic guitar here right now. I think I did in the past promise to play guitar live on stream at one point. So I will do that one day. Pallavi says, sorry, teacher, I meant to say that the only thing I eat is frog's legs. I don't eat anything else. It's just so tasty. I'm just joking, Pallavi, okay? For the record, everybody, Pallavi doesn't like frog's legs. She thinks it's disgusting. Did we have another question? I felt like there was another question. No. Right. Great. Well, do join our community, everybody. England chat. And you may or may not notice that we are monetized now. You might actually get an ad, for example. So check that out. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. It's been my pleasure. My name has been Teacher Rich. Smash that like button right now. You haven't smashed that like button yet? What are you doing? Smash that like button. This is premium English learning on this channel. We do our best. And I'll see you all on Saturday. Catch you later, everybody. Bye-bye.